Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Deep Rock Galactic. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Zarel. Let's get to it. Alright, so today we're doing the deep dive, codenamed Barbarous Carve. But before we get to that, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell to be notified of all future episodes as soon as they go live. Alright, so let's get into it. As you probably know, Deep Dive is a 3-stage bonanza where you're going through 3 different assignments and there is no extra minerals. It is only gold and nitra. Alright, having said that, the first stage is a full salvage operation and extracting morkite. Now, unlike normal assignments, you do have to do both assignments. There's no optional assignment or objective. So this stage has no other modifiers. You just have to do the salvage and the morkite. So you'll have to find the 3 mules. And then, of course, once you find the 3 mules, you can scan them to find the legs, repair them, and then call them back to the drop pod. Now, I would say, if you're playing with a group, and you do not have to play with a group, you can play with a pre-made group. So if your friends are playing, you can play with them, or you can match make and play with randoms. Or you can play by yourself, and that is completely up to you. If you're playing with other people, it will likely go faster, or should go faster, than if you're playing solo. So I would say to have 1 or 2 people always working on objectives, and the other people, whether it's 2 or 3 people, looking for veins of gold and nitra, and of course looking out for enemies. Everyone should be looking out for enemies. Gold, the gold that you mine and drop into either the side of the drop pod or into the mule, that will add credits. So it'll add credits to your wallet at the end of the mission. Nitra will keep you flush with ammo and supplies so that you don't have to reserve your supplies for any reason. You can feel confident that you will not run out at any point during the missions. Now with this mission, you will have to, once you repair and recall the mules, you'll have to do the uplink. You'll have to stay within that region in order for that uplink to complete. And the more people that are in that bubble, the faster it will go. So if you're playing with 3 other people, if all 4 people are within that bubble, it's going to complete faster. Once you have the uplink, then you're going to have the fuel pod come in, and you'll have to find where it drops. And of course, this is a good time to say that even if you're not on the mic, you can still communicate with your teammates by using your laser pointer and marking points of interest. So if you're going through a different section of the cave, mark where you're going so they know, etc. And once you get all that complete, then you're ready to go on to the next stage. And it is important to note at this point that everything carries over from one stage to the next. That includes gold, that includes nitra, whatever your health is at the end when you get on the drop pod, that is going to carry over, as well as all your supplies, your grenades, your ammo, everything is going to carry over. So whatever you have left over is going to be there when you get to the next stage, including whatever you're carrying. So if it gets a little bit too hairy on extraction, getting into the drop pod, you can always carry it over to the next stage and it'll still be there, and then you can just put it either on the side of the drop pod or the mule, depending on what is going on. So the second stage, you have the black box and collecting alien eggs. The black box is just like the uplink, You have to repair it, and then you have to survive the waves within that bubble in order to progress. Once that's complete, then you're done. You don't have to do anything else. The alien eggs, I would say, since they are on the terrain scanner, you can go and look at the terrain scanner and kind of strategize how you're going to go through the level to get the different eggs so you don't have to backtrack. Now, every egg that is dislodged from its nest has a chance of spawning a swarm. Additionally, there are swarms that will happen on regular intervals throughout the mission, which is also why it is a good idea to continue to progress through the objectives during any particular assignment as the waves get more aggressive the longer you're in any particular stage. So even if any particular egg, and I would say you have about a 50% chance of spawning a swarm when you grab any particular egg, even if it does not spawn a swarm, you do have other enemies that will spawn. So you'll have a group of enemies spawning. Now, once you have all the eggs and the black box is likely to be somewhere in the middle of the mission, whereas the eggs are spread out more. So once you get the eggs in the black box completed, even if you spawn a swarm on that last egg that you grab, you can still exit, call for the drop pod, and get out. You don't have to, as it will tend to be a little bit more difficult because you will actually spawn more enemies if you have a swarm and you call the drop pod in at the same time. In this case, it worked out for us to call in the drop pod. The drop pod wasn't too difficult to get to, and we didn't get separated, or not too badly separated. As you're going back, make sure that you're looking out for gold and nitra to line your pockets or increase the number of supplies you can call in. Once that's all done, you can get in the drop pod and get ready for the third and final stage of the deep dive. Now, I think it's important to note that communication is really key, so either use your microphone or use the tools that you have, like your laser pointer. Now, the third stage also has a black box, so this deep dive week is all about the black box and Morkite. You see Morkite at least a couple times, and of course you see the black box. So those things seem to be occurring on a regular basis. If you have a driller, you can always drill into a hole so that you have enemies only coming from one direction. Where it was spawned at, there was only two ways for the enemies to come in. So if it had been left, I think it probably would have been all right. You have two people covering one direction, two people covering the other, and it's not that bad. It's not like it's a large open area that you have to worry about enemies coming up behind you, on the sides, in front of you. So it's certainly up to you and your group what you do when the black box is available, and if you have a driller. Now, the third stage also has Swarmageddon, which means there's going to be tons of swarmers. You're going to see swarmers again and again throughout the mission. So be sure that you're keeping an eye out and an ear open for those swarmers. And of course, you're also going to be wanting to continue to look for nitra, even though it's the last stage, just so you don't have to worry about whether you have the materials or not to call in the supply drop, so you don't have to worry about reserving ammo, especially towards that end, that run. Now, this particular stage the cave complexity is quite high, and if you have a driller, as I did, if they are prodigious in their drilling, if they drill a lot of their own holes, when you call in the drop pod, the mule is more than likely going to take one or more of those driller holes. In addition to that, because this particular cave has a lots of twists and turns to it, it is going to be taking twists and turns on its own. So in addition to having that twisty cave on its own, if you have a driller that has been doing a lot of digging, it is going to cause a lot of issues trying to get out and trying to follow the mule. Not to mention all the enemies that you're going to have coming up behind you as well as in front of you. So it's important to kind of keep everything in place, and the big thing is make sure that you're all together. If you are a driller, make sure you mark the point where you're going to drill so that people are able to follow you, because that will save a lot of time. Instead of having to follow the mule for 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, then you only have to have your teammates follow you for 30 seconds or a minute, whatever it happens to be. And this is part of the reason why the developers made it this way. Following the mule certainly is the sure bet. Having a driller is going to make it very easy. And when you're calling in the mule and it is twisty and turny, it's easy to lose track of where the mule's going when you're trying to prevent or stay away from enemies, because there's no way that you can take out all the enemies on your way back. So if you do lose sight of the little flags, the little arrows that the mule leaves for you, then of course you'll have to either backtrack or follow someone else. As I did, I followed someone else. Unfortunately, that was not a shortcut. It turned out to be a dead end, and I paid the price for that. But it all worked out in the end. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check us out on social media, and thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time. Got a minute.
See you later! One platform, ready to use. Flares up!
Good work.
Jeez.
Back in.
You ain't coming home!